Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if female Kyuubi becomes the Naruto's loyal slave? Part 1, subscribe if you enjoy the video, let's start the story. 5 years ago, a demon fox with 9 tails attacked the village hidden in the leaves. The shinobi of the village tried to fight against the powerful demon, but weren't able to even hurt it in any way. However, the Yondaime, the strongest and leader of the village, were able to find a way to stop the monster. Instead of attacking the demon, he performed a technique that would seal it into a newborn child at the cost of his life. The child that the demon was sealed into was meant to be seen as a hero, but that wasn't the case. Instead, the villagers and even the shinobi believed that the child was the same demon now in human flesh and weak. They desired the death of the child, but were denied this and were forced to follow a law set by the Sandaime that no one was ever to speak of what happened that night ever again. While the villagers did follow the law of never speaking of the demon aloud, that didn't stop them from forming mobs and attacking the boy without mercy. The child, a boy with blonde hair, blue eyes and whiskers marks on the sides of his face, never knew nor understood why he was the center of the village's hatred, and when he asked no one would tell him. However, while the boy would ask questions, he and the rest of the villagers would never ask the right ones. Questions such as why he was chosen when there were other orphans to pick from were born that night. Why would the Sandaime take such intensive care while dealing with the boy? However, the most important question that failed to be asked was, why? Why did the Kyuubi attack without any warning at all? 5 years after the attack. After 5 years, the Kyuubi attacked the village of Konohana and managed to rebuild and return to its former glory. On October 10th, the day in which the Kyuubi was defeated, the village would celebrate the demon's defeat and praise the Yondaime for killing it. However, behind the scenes of the happy people enjoying the festivities, there was one child who wasn't allowed to attend the festival, as he was forced to be the punching bag for many drunken villagers. This child's name was Uzumaki Naruto, and he was the unknowing container of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Every year the villagers would get drunk and find and beat, if not kill, the small boy believing he was the Kyuubi in human form. The villagers, and even the shinobi who were supposed to be protecting him, would attack the boy in their grief and anger. They refused to see that what they were doing was attempting to kill a young and innocent boy and not a demon. This year was no different. The villagers would find Naruto, drag him into a deserted area and beat him, and until they grew bored or were sure he was dead. This time they went all out and decided to finish the job the Yondaime started. They had brought out everything they could find that had a pointed edge and that could do some serious damage. As the villagers drew closer to the defenseless and bleeding boy ready to finish him off. As for the boy, he had already passed out due to the pain he was in and the lack of blood. Mindscape. Naruto regained consciousness and noticed that it was hard to breathe and in the water. Then he noticed he was face down in sour water and gasping for fresh air and spitting the contents in his mouth. Looking around at his surroundings, Naruto tried to see if he recognized his surroundings. It wasn't the first time he was thrown into a sewer or used it to escape, and probably wouldn't be the last. Naruto walked down the log tunnels for what seemed like hours, making left and right turns every now and then trying to find the exit. He kept following the way the wind was blowing and a dim light down each tunnel, hoping to find the exit. After yet another turn, Naruto came across a long tunnel where the water was ticking, but a light was at the end. Seeing this, Naruto smiled, believing he had finally found the exit, and ran towards the light. After Naruto had made it to the tunnel's end but was hit by a blinding light and forced to cover his eyes due to the pain. When the pain was gone and Naruto could see, he looked, hoping to see open sky and freedom. Instantly, what he saw was what looked like a giant cage with iron bars and a paper seal keeping it closed. Seeing the giant cage, which mostly definitely had some kind of giant and bloodthirsty and dangerous animal looked inside it. While most people would take the intimidating look of the cage as a reason to stay away due to danger, Naruto, being a curious child, that was doing the only rational thing his mind could come up with, that being right up to the bars and looking inside to see what kind of animal was being kept in it. Looking around with a smile on his face, Naruto hoped to see something cool, but what he saw was not what he expected. For in front of Naruto was not some strange animal, but something that left the young blonde-haired boy completely speechless. Inside the cage was a red-headed girl that looked about his age, sat on the other side of the wall, her knees up to her chest and arms around her legs. She sat there with her head down, not noticing that someone else was nearby. However, upon getting a closer look, Naruto saw something strange about the girl in front of him. For example, she was naked, which made Naruto blush a little. Second, had strange ears on top of her head like dog or fox ears, and behind her, there was what looked like tails behind her. Seeing the strange girl in front of him, Naruto couldn't help but wanted to get to know her better, hoping that maybe she would be his friend. With the thought of finally getting a friend to play with, Naruto called out, "Hey, over here." When he said that, Naruto noticed the ears on the top of her head start to twitch, which Naruto couldn't help but admit that it was kind of cute as the girl began to lift her head to see what the noise was. When her head was fully up and her line of sight was focused on the first person to enter her prison for so long. Seeing the blonde-haired boy in front of her, the girl's eyes opened in surprise at seeing the blonde and knowing that she was the cause of all the pain that the boy had ever experienced. Naruto smiled when the girl looked at him, showing she knew he was there and giving him hope that she would be his friend. Too bad, that hope was short-lived as he saw the surprised look on her face, something he had seen on many of the villagers, which was usually followed by an unnatural gleam of hatred most of the time. Seeing the girl's look of surprise was there, but no anger, instead there was what looked like guilt and sadness. Seeing this in a person's eyes confused Naruto. As far as he could remember, nobody had ever shown him any form of guilt for their actions towards him, and yet this girl who he had just met showed nothing but sadness. He wanted to know why. Why would this girl be sad at the sight of him? He wanted to know if it was pity or if she did something to him and was now regretting it. Getting annoyed at all the confusion that now sorrows this girl, Naruto decided to confront her and began to squeeze through the narrow bars of the cage. Once he was halfway through, he realized he was stuck and tried to pull the rest of his body through but couldn't move. Therefore, he just lay in between the bars, unable to move in midair, loudly cursing at the bars to let him go. The girl heard all the noise that was going on, and it was strange, she had not heard or seen anything since she had awakened, and now here was the blonde boy from her dreams making such a ruckus. Though she had to admit, he was quite a humorist, especially watching him being stuck mid-air between the bars. She couldn't help but for the first time and in her existence laugh. Naruto kept trying to slide his body through the narrow bars, getting more and more frustrated at his predicament until he heard something. He looked at the girl and noticed that she was laughing at him. While her laugh did sound kind of nice, it still bothered him that she was laughing at his misfortune, and he didn't like that. "Hey, could you give me a hand or something?" They stopped her laughing when she heard his voice and gave a look of confusion, not understanding why he was talking to her. Blinking a few times, she pointed a finger to herself. "You mean me, right?" Naruto was getting annoyed. "Yeah, you. Who else would I be talking to now? Would you please help me?" The girl flinched at this. She knew he was right to be angry with her, but it still hurt to be yelled at like that. Naruto could see that his words had an effect on her as her ears lowered like a dog that had done something bad and began to feel a bit guilty. He didn't mean to yell at her like that, it was just that many people had laughed at his misfortune and it rubbed off on the wrong way. Naruto sighed and looked at the girl. "Hey, I'm sorry for yelling at you, can you please help me?" The girl looked at Naruto, clearly surprised at his change of attitude, but decided to help him before he decided to yell at her again. The redhead grabbed Naruto by his shoulders and began to pull so that he would slide out of the cage, but not enough to hurt him. After enough pulling, Naruto finally slid through the iron bars and fell face first back into the water. After having yet again, Naruto had to spit out sour water out of his mouth again. After Naruto had gotten the nasty sewage out of his mouth and rubbed the back of his head, "Thanks for your help," looking around for the redhead. Naruto noticed that she was back in her corner and rolled up into a ball that looked away from Naruto. Naruto looked at her, clearly confused as to why she was acting so strange around him. Naruto's past experiences with other children were that they either made fun of him or in one case where a girl with wide eyes turned red and fainted in front of him. This was different. This girl just sat in a corner and refused to make eye contact, as if she was ashamed or something. Since he had nothing to lose, Naruto tried to make friends with the strange redhead. "Hey, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. What's yours?" The redhead simply stared at him, never saying a word, but then went back to looking at the ground and ignoring him. This angered Naruto. He was trying to be as friendly just like the old man had thought him, and this girl didn't look straight in the eye. "Fine, I didn't want to talk to you anyway." With that outburst, took a seat right next to her and just sat there. The two children sat there shoulder to shoulder, never acknowledged each other's presence. While Naruto was still angry with the girl next to him, the redhead kept glancing at him and then looked away, as if embarrassed. After the third or fourth look, Naruto let her know she was bugging him. "What's your problem?" The girl flinched at the tone in his voice again. Naruto got right into her face and looked straight into her eyes. "First you laugh at me, then you leave me in the water, and when I try to be polite and I introduce myself, you ignore me." The girl in front of him was shaking. She hadn't meant to make him this angry, she just figured he would go away after she ignored him long enough. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Instead he stuck around and was now yelling at her, making her feel worse than she already was. Naruto could see that he wasn't getting anywhere, so he decided to use her looks against her. It always hurt him when people made fun of the whisker marks on his face, so I might get some kind of response. The response he got was not what he was hoping for, as he noticed the girl's eyes start to water as she started to cry right in front of him. At the sight in front of him was something he hated, seeing a girl cry, and worse, he was the one that caused it. All his life he was taught that it was never right to make a girl cry, no matter what the reason was. Seeing the girl in front of him trying desperately to rub the tears away made Naruto feel a sort of guilt he had never felt before. Wanting the girl to stop, Naruto did the only rational thing he could think of and hugged the crying in front of him. After this, everything went silent between the two. No crying redeed or loud-mouthed blonde, just pouring silence between the two, and they each had their own thoughts about this. The redhead stood there in the arms of the boy whose life she had ruined. Naruto had other thoughts. Okay, she's not anymore, so now what? I'm in a sewer. I'm holding a pretty girl in my arms, she has weird ears and tails. Speaking of tails. Ever since he first saw the tails, he had been wondering if they were real or not and looked down to see if they were actually connected. Looking down he saw that the tails were moving freely and that all 9 of them were connected right to the girl's body. Too bad Naruto didn't stop looking and got a good look at her butt, causing him to turn red. The redhead noticed something loud in the background, like a thumping sound moving faster and getting louder. Her ears were not for show, she easily picked up the sound of Naruto's heartbeat increasing for some reason and could feel an unusually warm feeling coming from his checks and noticed that they were a deep red. Seeing this confused the redeed, is something wrong? Your face is all red. Hearing this, Naruto jumped away from her and covered his eyes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stare, honestly it was an accident, please don't be angry, I'm sorry. While Naruto was on his knees apologizing while the redhead just stood there and blinked a few times, not understanding why he was doing this. After enough of Naruto begging for forgiveness, which the redhead could barely understand, Naruto talked so fast. What are you saying? Naruto looked up with his hand still over his eye due to the girl being naked. I'm so sorry, I was looking at your T-tails to see if they were real, and Naruto was unable to finish his sentence due to his embarrassment. The redhead heard him say something about her tails not being real. The redhead gave him a confused look. Of course my tail's real, here look. Naruto did this and would never forget this moment, as the red-haired girl was now bent over, showing that her tails were indeed attached to her body. He also got a few views of her entire ass. Seeing this, Naruto's face turned completely red and felt blood come out of his nose for some reason. Will you please put some clothes on? Naruto now sat with his back turned to the red-haired girl, who just stared at the blonde, confused as to what she did to make him yell at her again. She thought she would get on his good side by showing her tails, but that only made things worse. I'm sorry for showing my tails, I thought you would like to see them, she said depressingly. Naruto heard the sadness in her voice and began to feel guilty again. No, it's your tails that are the problem. As Naruto babbled, he turned his head, forgetting about the girl's lack of clothing, as she was now standing in front of still nude, causing Naruto to turn red yet again. Will you put on a shirt already? The redhead looked at the blonde, confused. Shirt? What's a shirt? Naruto just sat there with his jaw hanging in the air. You're kidding, right? You don't know what shirt? You don't have any kind of clothes on. The redhead just kept looking at his clothes. I've never worn clothes before. Naruto couldn't believe what he was hearing, that this girl had never worn any clothes before. Before the shock completely took over him, Naruto took off his shirt and threw it at the girl. Please put it on. The girl looked at the piece of clothing, trying to figure out what to do, and Naruto could tell she was having trouble and sighed. He turned to look at the girl, took back his shirt and told her to lift her arms. She did what he asked as he placed the shirt over her. The shirt was large and covered her entire body and made Naruto relieved that he could now look at the girl without blushing. When I get out of here, I apologize to all the caretakers for being such a brat about my clothes. While Naruto was in thought, the redhead kept looking over the article as it clung to her body tightly and restrained her movement slightly. She didn't like this shirt one bit and wanted to remove it immediately. However, the blonde in front of her seemed to like it and she didn't want to make him any more angrier than he was now. She began to get nervous as to how he would react if he found out who she was. She couldn't take that kind of pain, but as long as he didn't ask for her name, she was safe. Naruto saw her get nervous and became concerned that something was wrong. I don't think I got your name. Hearing this, the redhead began to panic. Damn it, he just had to ask. Okay, what do I do if I tell him? He'll hate me, and if I lie it could make it worse. Naruto could see she was panicking for some reason and went with what was obvious to him, that she didn't want to be his friend and she was making up something to get away. Before she could say anything, Naruto decided to answer for her. It's okay, you don't need to tell me, I understand. Who would want to be friends with a demon like me? Hearing this, the redeed could feel her heart breaking from the sadness in his voice and knew that he had suffered before in situations like this. She didn't want to cause him any more pain, so she answered, Kyuubi no Kitsune. After hearing her name, Naruto just stared at Kyuubi without saying anything, and it was making the fox demon a bit nervous. When he did speak, it wasn't what she expected him to say. Your parents named you after the demon fox. Kyuubi sweat dropped at this and shook her head back and forth. clearly saying no. But this Naruto did a quick look at the girl in front of him, believing her to be crazy, until he noticed 9 tails, red cat-like eyes, fox ears, and fans in her mouth all proved that she was indeed the Kyuubi. Now realizing the danger he was in, Naruto was paralyzed with fear. Kyuubi could sense his fear, and it hurt her. She had expected something like this, but it still hurt, and she didn't want to lose his boy. For some reason she didn't want him to leave her alone. She could see that Naruto was about to make a run for it, and before he turned, Kyuubi called out to him to wait. Please don't leave. Naruto heard this and was frozen again and thought he was prepared for anything the demon would try, except for her saying please. Then there were the tears pouring from her eyes again. Even if she was a bloodthirsty demon, Naruto couldn't just turn his back to a crying girl. With a deep sigh, Naruto responded, okay, I won't leave you alone, so will you please stop crying already? With these words, Kyuubi cried and began to rub her eyes. Who would have thought the great Kyuubi was such a crybaby? Naruto jokes. Kyuubi pouted cutely at this. I am not a crybaby. Naruto giggled at this. After all the drama, the blonde and the demon were now sitting in front of each other, with a bit of tension between the two. Naruto was the first to respond. So you're a demon? Kyuubi nodded her head. So, where exactly are we? Kyuubi looked down, disappointed. I don't know, I've been here since the first moment I opened my eyes and have known nothing else. Naruto looked at her, believing her somewhat, but not fully, since she was a demon, telling me you've been in this cell the whole time. Kyuubi nodded again, being completely honest. Hi, this cell is all I've known ever since I began learning to walk and talk. This cell has always been my home. Naruto couldn't understand what was going on. According to Kyuubi, she had been in this cell since she was a baby, and if she was here, who attacked the village that night? While he was thinking, there was something Kyuubi wanted to say. Well, I do have these dreams, nightmares really. Naruto looked at the fox demon, curious what kind of nightmares. He asked, and noticed Kyuubi began to shake in fear. Kyuubi held herself tightly and began to explain that in my dreams I see a village burning with fire everywhere and people screaming for lives and hurting me. They attack me with strange powers, hurting and forcing me to fight back. I want them to stop and leave me alone. But the man was dressed in black with a strange orange mask. He tells me to attack, his eye tells me to attack, to kill. This man's evil eye spins behind his mask, screaming, telling me to kill. Suddenly all Kyuubi knew was pain as she held her head and screamed. Kyuubi was trapped in what felt like an eternity of pain, and she begged it to end, but she knew it wouldn't. She had been through this before, and it had never ended before. Every time she closed her eyes, this pain would come, along with the images of people begging for their lives and one blonde boy being beaten to death, and she had to watch over and over again. She never understood these dreams. She had never seen the outside of her cell, and yet she knew these palaces and the people that were dying in front of her. However, this time was different because the pain, for some odd reason, was fading away and she could hear something. It sounded like a Kaiu-chan. The voice was familiar to Kaiu-chan. She had heard it before, but Kaiu-chan, please wake up. Kyuubi opened her eyes to see Naruto over with concern in his eyes, something she had never experienced before with anyone. Naruto saw that she had finally come around and he was glad she was okay. He didn't know what to do. All he did was ask her for nightmares, and the next thing he knew, she was screaming in pain. It terrified him to be so helpless, as him he considered a friend was in pain, even if this friend was a demon. It was strange, in the short time they had known each other, about this demon and treated him more human than anyone in the village had. Even the old man had never been this kind. He started to wonder if he could help her out of a horrible place. Well, she did deserve some kind of punishment for what she did. She did it against her will, so she deserved a lighter sentence at least. After Kyuubi had calmed down and the pain had faded, she noticed that Naruto was staring at her. Is something wrong? Naruto gulped. Kaiu-chan. Is there any way to get you out of here? Kyuubi sat there with her mouth hanging open at what he had just said. What did you just say? Naruto looked at her, confused. I asked if there was some way to get you out of here, Kaiu-chan. Kyuubi looked at the blonde, trying to process what he was trying to say. You want me to leave my cell? Naruto nodded his head. Yeah, I mean, from what you've told me, you personally didn't do anything, so why should you be punished for something another fox demon did? Kyuubi thought about this and agreed that his logic made sense. After thinking a little harder, Kyuubi gave a grin. There may be a way for me to trade one prison for a better one, but it depends on you, Naruto-kun. Naruto blushed at being called kun and blinked with a face that clearly said me on it. Kyuubi had to smile at this. It made him somewhat cute. I don't know why, but everything about this place has always felt weird, and now that I am here it feels different. Naruto blinked at this difference. He asked. Kyuubi, this yeah, ever since you showed up the cell feels like it's changed, like you have a connection. Naruto just stared with his mouth hanging open, clearly not understanding. Kyuubi saw this and tried to explain it better. I mean, it's like I'm a prisoner and you're the new warden, and if we make a deal or a pact I might be able to leave. Naruto looked at her, not understanding what she meant by a pack. Seeing the confusion, Kyuubi decided to explain, a pack is an agreement between a human and a mighty and powerful demon like me. Naruto rolled her eyes at this, as Kyuubi continued, now pacts can be made between other creatures such as golems, fairies, and even dragons, but with these came with high prices. For each time a person made a pact, whether it was to save their lives or to obtain power for whatever reason, that person had to give up something important to them. Naruto looked at the kitsune and was a bit nervous at having to give something important up. Well, he didn't own much, the little he had was important to him, so what did they have to give up? Kaiu-chan. Kyuubi sighed. I've heard that through pacts a person could become mute, lose their singing voice, their sight, the ability to have children, their time, even their hair. Naruto gave a skeptical look at the last part, but instead asked, what did you mean by time? Kaiu-chan. Kyuubi sighed at this, not really a believer of the story herself, just that a child made a pact with a golem and with it lost his ability to grow old. Naruto heard this and smiled. That sounds kind of cool. He then noticed Kyuubi had another opinion. I don't think so. After all, imagine your friends and family growing old around you and eventually dying of old age while you remain a child and alone. No thanks. Hearing this, Naruto rethought his opinion of eternal youth and shivered. This also brought a deep thought about this pact, and he wondered what he would lose and what would happen to Kaiu-chan if they did this. And how exactly do you know all this if you've been here the whole time? Kyuubi opened her mouth to say something but stopped herself. I don't know, I just thought, and it's their wiring. Kyuubi chuckled nervously. Hearing this, Naruto's confidence was fading and Kyuubi could sense his doubt and wanted to reassure him of what would happen. You don't need to worry, the Naruto-kun pact will be a little different than the others. Naruto looked at it differently. Kyuubi made the thought pose. Well, for starters, the other pacts were made by two separate creatures. We are in theory already bonded together, so the rules are different. Naruto nodded his head and listened as Kyuubi prepared him for what was to come. When a pact is made, the seal on my cell may have a reaction to it. Naruto looked at the gates, noticed for the first time gates, and noticed they were being held back by a piece of paper with the word seal on it. After he saw this, Kyuubi continued that the seal is what keeps me here and connects us, and it might change with us. It stays as it is or changes into an object with a pact to keep being an undergrad. I really don't know. Naruto nodded at this, not seeing anything wrong. Next, with our pact you will gain some of my power to the point that we will be evenly balanced in power, no stronger no weaker. Naruto nodded at this, understanding also with our pact you will be my master and I will be your loyal slave. But this Naruto could only say one thing. Are you joking? Kyuubi flinched at this. Of course I'm not joking, why would I? Naruto was speechless. I don't want you to be my slave. Why would you even ask me to do that? Kyuubi just stared at him confused. I don't see the problem, you get a powerful and loyal slave at your command along with half of my power. I don't understand why you don't want this. Naruto looked at Kitsune clearly, surprised that she was so willing to give up her freedom so easily, as if it was a simple business deal. Taking a deep breath, Naruto responded, because it's wrong to keep someone as a slave. No one has the right to control another like they're some kind of toy. Everyone deserves to be free. Kyuubi looked at the blonde and didn't know what to say. She had him and complete control of the greatest of demons, and he threw it away because he didn't want to take away her freedom. She didn't know whether to cry at his kindness or call him an idiot for his stupidity. Despite his words, Kyuubi had to do this. If she wanted a redemption for her past crimes she may have committed, she had to do this. No, she wanted to do this. For some reason she wanted to serve this boy. She felt drawn to him and felt this strange warmth in her chest, and she wanted to understand it. Since Naruto was going to give in, Kyuubi did the only thing she could. She got on her knees and bowed to Naruto. Naruto was surprised to see this. No one had ever bowed to him before, not to make a request, and especially not out of respect to him. Kyuubi didn't do anything for a while, but then spoke to Uzumaki. Naruto. For my past actions I have committed great sins and dishonored my name. Please let me become your slave to redeem myself for my past actions. After hearing this, Naruto was left speechless. He didn't know how to respond after hearing all of this. He had seen in movies that when people did this it was meant to be beyond serious. He wanted to say no, he didn't want a slave, but he didn't want her to suffer any more than she already had. Seeing no other way, Naruto made his decisions. Kyuubi no Kitsune, the fox demon, looked up with hope in her eyes. I accepted your offer and allowed you to become my slave and serve me. After hearing this, Kyuubi stood up and looked at her new master straight into his eyes with a smile on her face. Then she dove her hand into her stomach where the seal was still smiling. Thank you my master, and a white light filled the room and everything went silent. Leaf Village, real time. The mob of people who had begun to beat Naruto to an inch of his life were crowding around ready to make the final kill and avenge all their fallen loved ones. One of the men stood on the stop of the young boy holding a dagger, ready to place it into the blonde's heart when a kunai flew out and hit the man in this, forcing him to drop the knife. The man screamed and held his bleeding, looking around to see who had thrown the thing, and noticed a man wearing a weasel mask was standing on a rooftop with his arm extenuated. It wasn't long before more people wearing animal masks began to show up and blocked any paths that could be used as an escape. As the mob began to get nervous with all the Anbu showing up, their worst fears had come to pass, as an elderly man wearing a white robe and a red hat had shown up looking very displeased. As the Anbu bowed to the old man, many of the mob members began to shake in fear at the sight of their village leader looking beyond angry. One of the mob members approached the village leader, trying his best to save his own hide. "Hokage-sama, this isn't what it looks like to us." The man never got to finish his sentence, as the Hokage resounded silence, shutting the man up and even pissed himself off a little. The Hokage looked at the people around him in disgust. This is how the people of one of the greatest villages in the history of the shinobi spend their time, beating a defenseless child. Some members of the mob had actual looks of shames upon their faces, while others' anger seemed to grow, as if they believed they hadn't done anything wrong. However, before anything could be said or done between either side, a bright red light began to glow around the body of the young boy, a red light that hadn't been seen for 5 years. Many people began to panic at the sight of the red chakra. Some even started screaming that the demon was to be unleashed and that they were all doomed. As the chakra began to grow in size and power, many of the Anbu prepared themselves for the worst, while the Hokage looked on in horror at seeing the boy he promised to protect about to die. As the chakra was increasing, it was getting harder and harder to keep their eyes on the poor boy as the bright red light began stinging their eyes. It also didn't help that for some reason the heat around them began to rise and everyone wearing armor was sweating their own weight. But, even though all this was going on, the members of the Anbu never turned away. They had each watched a kid in front of them one time or another, and many couldn't but pity the death of the poor child. It hurt the most for the elder Hokage, as he watched a boy who he loved like his own grandson was about to be torn apart by a monster 5 years ago, and there was nothing he could do. As a lone tear fell from the ancient shinobi's face, he prayed that Minato and Kushina would forgive him for his mistakes with their son. After accepting that nothing could be done, Sarutobi began a silent prayer when he noticed something began to glow on the boy's stomach, the seal, and began to panic, expecting the worst. What happened was something that would go down in the history book for generations. The seal that was on Naruto's stomach began to glow a bright orange color and looked to be letting off more heat than the demonic chakra was, and it was increasing as the red chakra began to decrease. Eventually, nearly all of the red chakra was gone and looked like it was being sucked into the seal, something that was not supposed to happen if the seal had been broken. Soon every trace of the red chakra was gone, but a glowing seal still remained glowing, its haunting orange color still there. No one moved or said anything, some weren't even breathing due to the fear that had paralyzed them. After some time, someone realized they were holding their breath and decided to breathe. The moment that happened, the seal began to glow again, but was also followed by a loud screeching noise as well that forced everyone to cover their ears due to the pain. One man, an Anbu member wearing a dog's mask, seemed to be handling it better than most, but kept his eye on the seal and noticed that it seemed to be moving, as if it were alive. Others began to notice this as well, their fear had returned and the seal began to move more and faster, and the screaming it caused was somehow getting louder as well. Despite all that had so far, and before anyone could utter an order, the seal that had kept Naruto and the village safe for 5 years suddenly shot off the boy and began to float in midair. It stayed like this for a few seconds before turning a black color and collapsing on itself and forming what looked to be a small black glass sphere. Everyone stared at the small gem, clearly not expecting anything like this to happen or what happened next either. The sphere began to shake and ripple as if it was made of liquid but was clearly solid, and it didn't help that impossibly large spikes seemed to grow out of the thing, only to return from where they came. Despite the bizarreness they had seen so far, what happened next clearly topped everything. The sphere began to change again, this time instead of spikes coming out of it like before. Instead, the sphere began to take the shape of what looked to be the hilt of a sword. The cloth around the grip was a deep red and looked slick, while the guard looked to be made from solid gold, with a design of 2 foxes each with 9 tails, biting the tip of each tail. There was also a ruby red jewel right where the eye was. Many were gasping at what they were looking at, not sure how to react. Then when the villager, a particular greedy man, tried to reach for the object, only to back away when the sinister red chakra of the Kyuubi began to appear again, emerging from where the blade should have been. The red chakra began to pour out of the hilt, splitting in 2 directions, one stretching out to where it was about the same length as a normal sword. The other half of the red chakra went towards the grip of the sword and wrapped around it began to increase and take the shape of what appeared to be a young girl with 9 tails and fox ears. There now stood a nude fox girl holding a large glowing red sword. She didn't say or do anything at first. Eventually, she opened her red eyes and had a look around at the people in front of her. She gave them all looks of suspicion and curiosity until she noticed Naruto on the ground unconscious and bleeding. Her mood changed after seeing this, for her eyes now showed looks of hate and bloodlust. Narrowing at the people in front of her, she raised her sword high, as if to swing it. Before anyone could say or do anything to stop her, she swung her sword Kitsunbai, she shouted, as a large blue flame shot forward from the sword. Everyone who could jump out of the way before the flame could harm them. Once the fire had died down, everyone looked around for the fox demon, only to notice she was gone, as was Naruto. Sarutobi sees this look at his men, seeing that no one was harmed, not even the mob members. He has his orders: half of you take these fools to Ibiki, the others find that demon and bring Naruto back alive. That's an order. Everyone simply responded, "Hi Hokage-sama," and left. But Kyuubi was jumping from rooftop to rooftop as fast as she could while carrying an unconscious blonde on her shoulder. Despite her size, she was easily able to carry the boy and was moving faster than any of the Anbu were able to run. As Kyuubi left from each roof, she would stop for a second and sniff the air around her, trying to find the home of her master by using his scent. She soon found a run-down apartment building where Naruto's scent was the strongest and was confused at the sight in front of her. She looked around at the other buildings and noticed that they were in fine shape, while this one looked like it was barely standing and could tip over any minute. She looked at her master with a pained look. "This is wrong, no one should have to live like this, least of all him." With another pained look at the blonde she was carrying, she used her free hand to wipe away the tears that were building as she gently set him down on the ground. "No one will ever hurt you again," she whispered as she got into a stance. Taking a deep breath and spreading each of her 9 tails out fully, Kyuubi then clasped her hands together and began building energy into them. Soon a bright orange light began to glow between her fingers and, as she removed them, to reveal a ball of light floating in midair. The ball floated there for a while until 2 lines of energy shoot out from its sides. The 2 beams kept stretching out farther and farther until eventually they had circled around the building until they reached each other and were now connected. Now an orange line was around the building and hovered there for not doing anything until a wall of energy began to pour out from the bottom of the line into the ground and up into the sky. Once the wall was high enough, it stopped growing and began to form a lid over the top of the apartment building. From a distance people would clam what they were seeing was a light show, but what Kyuubi had created was a barrier that would keep people out and anyone else within. After her work was finished, Kyuubi picked up her master again and began to walk into the building. As she walked into the building, she kept her nose up to try to find where the scent of her master was the strongest. It was easy since no one else lived in the complex and it was too damaging for anyone in their right mind to want to stay there. The walls and ceilings were covered in holes and dirt. There were white animals like rats and roaches everywhere, and the stairs she was using looked like they were about to give in. This place is not a home. After enough stairs, Kyuubi was at the top floor where the surroundings were a bit nicer and far more cleaner. She then came across a door where her master's scent was the strongest and reached for the doorknob to open the door. To her surprise, the knob fell to the floor as if it had been broken long ago and no one bothered to fix it. Inside, Kyuubi looked at the home of her master. It was large enough for one person and a little dusty from lack of cleaning. There was a small kitchen with everything needed, a small table and 1 chair. Looking around, Kyuubi noticed that while a person had everything needed to survive, that was a certain feeling of loneliness and longing within the air. Moving to the bedroom, Kyuubi could still feel the sadness around her as she saw her master bedroom. It had a small bed, dresser and desk, and that was about it. She gently placed her master on the bed and made sure he was comfortable and began to heal his wounds. Once she had checked every wound to be sure that nothing would lead to an infection, she then laid him to sleep. Kyuubi then laid next to him and placed the blanket over both of them. Before she fell asleep, Kyuubi opened her master hand and placed the hilt of the sword she had used before in his hand. The blade was gone again, but a string of blue prayer beads ran through the pommel of the sword and closed his hand. With that, Kyuubi began to fall asleep, but not before getting one last look at her master. "Good night, my master, I will always be there for you, Naruto-kun." With it, the powerful Kitsune soon fell asleep to the sound of Naruto's heartbeat. Thanks for watching my video, see you next time, till then sayonara.